I never expected to come home from a long day at the construction site to find my wife gone. After 7 years of marriage to Melissa, all I got was a handwritten note on our kitchen counter: "Do not look for me. I need freedom." Next to it lay her wedding ring, cold and abandoned. While most husbands might panic or desperately search something inside me, just accepted it with unexpected calm. Our marriage had been growing more distant by the day, though I had been trying to ignore the signs. What Melissa never anticipated was how decisively I would respond to her disappearing act. Before I tell you what happened when she showed up crying outside my lawyer's office, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe if you have ever had to choose self-respect over a broken relationship. I met Melissa 8 years ago at my college friend Dave's summer barbecue. She stood out immediately with her vibrant laugh and confidence that lit up the backyard gathering. While I was building my contracting business from the ground up, she was already established as a junior marketing executive at a prestigious firm downtown. We hit it off immediately, finding common ground in our ambition and work ethic, though our fields could not have been more different. Our romance progressed quickly. Within 3 months, we were practically living together at my apartment. By 6 months, we were discussing marriage. Looking back, there were warning signs even then that I chose to ignore. Melissa would occasionally make comments about settling down for now, as though our relationship had an expiration date. But I was blindly in love, seeing only what I wanted to see. We married after dating for just 1 year. The wedding was elaborate, mostly planned to Melissa's exact specifications. I remember joking to my best man that my only job was to show up and say I do. I did not mind, though. Seeing her happy made me happy, and I believed we had our whole lives ahead of us to grow together. The early years of our marriage were genuinely good. I worked tirelessly to grow my contracting company from a one-man operation to a respected business with 15 employees. Melissa climbed the corporate ladder at her firm, eventually becoming the youngest marketing director in the company's history. We purchased a beautiful 4-bedroom home in an upscale suburb, complete with the spacious kitchen she had always wanted and the workshop I needed for my projects. I supported her career ambitions wholeheartedly. When she needed to work late, I would have dinner waiting. When she traveled for conferences, I rearranged my schedule to drive her to the airport and pick her up. I attended countless corporate functions, as her supportive husband, making small talk with executives while she networked. In retrospect, I realize how one-sided our support system had become. When I had important client meetings or project deadlines, Melissa was usually too busy to adjust her schedule for mine. Around our 5th anniversary, things began to shift noticeably. Melissa started spending more time with a new group of friends from work. They were all similarly career-focused, mostly single or recently divorced, and seemed to share an unspoken disdain for domestic life. Whenever they would come to our house for dinner, I would overhear comments about how marriage was outdated or jokes about being tied down. Melissa never defended our relationship during these conversations. Instead, she would laugh along, shooting me apologetic glances afterward. As her friend group changed, so did her attitude toward our life together. Our comfortable suburban existence, once a shared goal, became something she referred to as boring and predictable. She began making critical comments about my reliable routine, my preference for home-cooked meals over trendy restaurants, and even my contentment with our life. "Do not you ever want more than this?" she asked one evening as we sat on our back deck. "Sometimes I feel like we are just playing house, going through motions other people set for us." I tried to reignite the connection between us. I planned surprise date nights at restaurants she had mentioned, wanting to try only for her to cancel last minute due to work commitments. I suggested weekend trips to nearby cities, but she always had a reason why it was not a good time. I even proposed a second honeymoon to Italy, a dream destination she had talked about for years. She seemed momentarily excited before saying we should wait for a better time that never came. Meanwhile, her social media presence became increasingly disconnected from our reality. She curated an online persona of the successful career woman with the perfect home life, posting carefully staged photos of meals I had cooked as though they were collaborative efforts or pictures of home improvements I had completed, with captions implying we had done them together. The disparity between her online life and our actual relationship grew wider by the month. In the final weeks before she left, Melissa became like a ghost in our home. She would leave before I woke up and return after I had gone to bed. Our conversations became limited to household logistics and superficial pleasantries. Her phone became an extension of her hand, and she would step out of rooms to take calls or respond to texts. At night, she would password lock her phone before placing it face down on her nightstand. I found evidence that something deeper was happening. Credit card statements showed charges for expensive restaurants on evenings she had claimed to be working late. There was a hotel charge in our own city. On a weekend, she had supposedly been at a girls-only retreat. I discovered receipts for new clothes I had never seen her wear. The last real conversation we had was the night before she disappeared. I had made her favorite pasta dish, hoping to create an opportunity to talk honestly about the state of our marriage. "How was work today?" I asked as we sat at our dining table, physically close but emotionally miles apart. "Fine," she replied, not looking up from her phone. "The usual challenges." "I was thinking maybe we could go away this weekend," I suggested. "Just a quick trip to that bed and breakfast in wine country you liked a few years ago." She finally looked up, but her eyes held no warmth. "I cannot this weekend. Jennifer is going through a tough time with her divorce, and I promised I would help her sort through some things." Jennifer, the recently divorced friend who constantly posted about the joys of single life and finding herself. I nodded, accepting yet another rejection without protest. "Maybe next month then," I said, though we both knew it would not happen. That night, as Melissa slept, I lay awake wondering if she was having an affair, if she had fallen out of love with me, or if she had simply become a different person than the woman I had married. I contemplated confronting her with my suspicions, but decided to give it one more week before having that difficult conversation. By the next evening, she was gone. Tuesday started like any other workday. I left at 6:30 in the morning for a major renovation project across town, leaving Melissa still asleep or pretending to be. The job was challenging enough to keep my mind occupied, preventing me from dwelling on the growing distance between us. I arrived home around 5:45 in the evening, tired but looking forward to attempting yet another reconnection with my wife. The moment I stepped through our front door, I sensed something was wrong. Our house had the unmistakable feeling of emptiness that goes beyond mere absence. The silence held a finality that raised the hair on the back of my neck. "Melissa," I called out, my voice echoing slightly in the entryway. No response. I moved through the house, noticing small differences. Her favorite throw blanket missing from the couch. The framed photo of her parents gone from the hallway table. The house was not obviously ransacked, but it felt diminished, as though someone had carefully extracted specific pieces of its soul. In the kitchen, I found it. A single sheet of paper torn from the notepad we kept by the phone. Her handwriting, usually flowing and artistic, appeared rushed and jagged. "Do not look for me. I need freedom. I am sorry." Beside the note lay her wedding ring, the diamond catching the late afternoon sunlight filtering through the kitchen window. My first reaction was not what I would have expected. Instead of panic or devastation, I felt an odd sense of clarity wash over me. The uncertainty that had plagued me for months suddenly solidified into understanding. The marriage had been over for longer than I had been willing to admit, and Melissa had finally made it official. I moved through our bedroom like a detective, cataloging what was missing. Her suitcases. Most of her clothes, though not all of them. Her jewelry box, minus a few pieces I had given her. Her personal documents. Her laptop and tablet. What she left behind told its own story. The expensive watch I had given her for our 5th anniversary photo albums from our early years together. Gifts from my family. She had taken only what she considered truly hers, leaving behind the physical evidence of our relationship as though it belonged to a life she no longer wanted. In her home office, the drawers of her desk hung open, mostly emptied. But she had been careless or perhaps rushed. In the bottom drawer, I found evidence of premeditation, printed bank statements, copies of our mortgage documents, screenshots of our investment accounts. She had been planning this exit for weeks, maybe months, gathering the financial information she would need for her new life. My next stop was our home computer, where a quick check of our joint accounts revealed she had already withdrawn $10,000, roughly half of our accessible cash. She had left the investment accounts untouched, likely because they required both our signatures to liquidate. I sat at our kitchen table until well past midnight, reviewing our marriage like an autopsy. All the canceled date nights, the growing indifference, the new friends who viewed marriage as a prison rather than a partnership, the unexplained absences, the suspicious charges, the passwords and secrecy. The evidence had been there all along, but I had refused to see the complete picture. As I stared at her wedding ring glinting coldly under the kitchen lights, something shifted inside me. For years I had prioritized Melissa's needs, adjusting my life to accommodate her ambitions, accepting her growing distance with patient understanding. I had been willing to fight for our marriage against increasing odds, planning to confront the issues and work through them together. But her note made one thing abundantly clear. She did not want to be found. She did not want to work things out. She wanted freedom from me, from our marriage, from the life we had built together. And in that moment of painful clarity, I decided to give her exactly what she asked for. The next morning I called Mark Stevens. Beyond being one of my closest friends since high school, Mark happened to be a highly regarded divorce attorney. I was at his office by 8:30, note and wedding ring in a sealed envelope. "You seem strangely calm," Mark observed after I explained the situation. "Most guys in your position would be falling apart or planning a manhunt." "What good would either of those do?" I replied. "She made her choice. Now I am making mine." Mark nodded with newfound respect. "So what do you want to do?" "I want to file for divorce on grounds of abandonment. I want to freeze our joint accounts before she empties them completely. And I want to protect my business, which I built largely during our marriage but with minimal input from her." For the next several hours, Mark walked me through the process. We documented the abandonment with photographs of her cleared-out closet and the note she left. We filed emergency orders to freeze the joint accounts to prevent further withdrawals. We gathered evidence of my business operations to establish that it should remain solely under my control, despite being a marital asset. By the afternoon, the initial divorce papers had been filed. I felt no satisfaction, no vindication, only a strange sense of liberation. For the first time in years, I was making a decision solely based on what I needed, not what might please Melissa or save a relationship that existed only in my hopes. As I left Mark's office, a sudden impulse seized me. I pulled out my phone and booked a 5-day trip to the Florida Keys, a destination Melissa had always refused to visit despite my interest in deep-sea fishing there. I called my business partner to arrange coverage for my ongoing projects, packed a single bag, and informed only Mark and my business partner of my whereabouts. Driving to the airport, I switched my phone to airplane mode, cutting off contact with the world I was temporarily leaving behind. The weight that had been pressing on my chest for months began to lift. Melissa had sought freedom. Now so was I. The Florida Keys greeted me with warm sunshine and salty breezes, a stark contrast to the emotional winter I had been living in. I checked into a small beachfront hotel, changed into shorts and a t-shirt, and walked straight to the beach. For the first time in months, maybe years, I took a deep breath that felt truly refreshing. The next 3 days passed in a blur of simple pleasures. I booked a deep-sea fishing charter and caught a sizable marlin after a 45-minute battle that left my arms aching but my spirit invigorated. I ate at local restaurants where the servers knew regulars by name and treated newcomers like future friends. I sat on the beach watching sunsets with a cold beer in hand, exchanging casual conversation with fellow tourists and locals alike. On the evening of my 3rd day, sitting at a beachside bar, I realized I was smiling genuinely for the first time in longer than I could remember. The bartender, an older man named Jack with weathered skin and kind eyes, noticed the change. "You look like you were carrying the world when you came in 2 days ago," he commented, sliding another beer toward me. "Now you look 10 years younger." "Sometimes you have to lose something to find yourself," I replied, surprised by my own philosophical tone. I returned to my hotel room that night and decided to check my phone. Turning off airplane mode unleashed a flood of notifications. There were concerned messages from friends who had stopped by the house to find it empty. My parents had called several times, worried when they could not reach either of us. My business partner had texted to assure me Everything was under control at work. And then there were Melissa's messages. The progression was telling. The first sent the evening after she left. I hope you understand this is something I need to do for me. Then about 24 hours later, why have you not called or texted? Are you okay? 48 hours in Tommy, please respond. I need to know you are all right. And finally, earlier today, why are the accounts frozen? Please call me back immediately. This is not fair. There was also a voicemail from Mark. Tommy, you need to come back. Melissa has been camping outside my office since this morning. She knows about the divorce filing. Call me. I booked a flight back for the next morning, but I did not respond to any messages. This confrontation needed to happen in person, and I needed one more night of peace before facing the storm. The flight home gave me time to prepare mentally. I was not angry anymore, just resolved. Whatever explanation Melissa offered, whatever tears she shed, I knew our marriage was over. She had made her choice, and now she would have to live with the consequences. Mark met me at the airport, his usual confident demeanor subdued. She is still there, he said as we drove toward his office. She looks terrible. Says she made a huge mistake. What happened to her bid for freedom, I asked, gazing out the window at the familiar cityscape. Apparently freedom was not what she expected. We pulled into the parking lot of Mark's office building, and I saw her immediately. Melissa was sitting on a bench near the entrance, her usually immaculate appearance disheveled. Her hair was pulled back carelessly, her face free of makeup, her clothes wrinkled as if she had slept in them. When she spotted me, she stood quickly, her eyes red and puffy from crying. Tommy, she gasped, moving toward me. Thank God you are okay. I was so worried. I maintained a calm distance. I am fine. I was on vacation. Her expression shifted from relief to confusion. Vacation. While I was missing, you were not missing, Melissa. You left. There is a difference. My voice remained steady, emotionless. Your note was very clear. You wanted freedom. I decided to respect your wishes. Mark ushered us inside to his conference room, away from potential spectators. Once the door closed behind us, Melissa broke down completely. I made a terrible mistake, she sobbed. I thought I wanted something else, but I was wrong. What happened to your grand escape? Did freedom not live up to the hype? The questions came out more bitter than I intended. Between sobs, the truth emerged. Melissa had been having an affair with Jason, a colleague from work. He was married too, with 2 small children. For months, they had been planning to leave their spouses and start a new life together. Jason had promised to leave his wife the same day Melissa left me. But he did not do it, she explained, her voice small. I left everything for him, and he could not go through with it. He said he needed more time, that leaving his kids was harder than he expected. She looked up at me through tear-soaked lashes. I realized I had thrown away a good marriage for an empty promise. I sat perfectly still, absorbing this confirmation of my suspicions. Part of me had known there was someone else, but hearing her admit it still stung. I am so sorry, Tommy. I know I hurt you terribly, but we can fix this. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. She reached for my hand across the table, but I moved it away. What exactly did you expect would happen? I asked. That I would fall apart without you, that I would beg you to come back. I thought you would at least look for me, she admitted, a flash of something like resentment crossing her face. I thought you would fight for me. And there it was, the truth that explained everything. Melissa had not actually wanted freedom. She had wanted to be pursued, to feel valuable enough that I would chase after her. Her disappearance had been a test I was meant to fail by succeeding. You wanted freedom, I said quietly. I am giving it to you permanently. Her eyes widened as understanding dawned. The divorce papers. You cannot be serious. I have never been more serious about anything in my life. What followed was an emotional display that swung wildly between pleading and anger. She promised to change, to recommit to our marriage, to attend counseling. When those assurances failed to move me, her tone shifted dramatically. You cannot just throw away 7 years, she said, anger replacing tears. And you had no right to freeze our accounts. Half of that money is mine. Mark, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. Actually, Mrs. Walker removing $10,000 from joint accounts without consent. abandoning the marital home without discussion, and engaging in an extramarital affair all significantly impact divorce proceedings in this state. Melissa's face paled. You cannot prove any affair. Mark slid a folder across the table. Hotel receipts for rooms booked in both your name and Jason Mercer's. Credit card statements showing dinners for two on evenings you told Tommy you were working late. Text messages recovered from the cloud backup of your shared tablet. He paused. Should I continue? She looked from Mark to me, reality finally setting in. So that is it. You are just done with me. You were done with me the moment you wrote that note, I replied. Probably long before that. The only difference is that I am accepting it instead of pretending otherwise. Melissa stood abruptly, grabbing her purse. This is not over. I will get what I deserve. As she reached the door, I called after her. That is exactly what I am counting on. The door slammed behind her, and I exhaled slowly, feeling oddly peaceful despite the confrontation. Mark gave my shoulder a supportive squeeze. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I replied, surprised to find it was true. For the first time in a long time, I really am. The following weeks were challenging but clarifying. Melissa launched a campaign to win me back through mutual friends, showing up at my workplace with tears and apologies, even enlisting her parents to call me directly. When those efforts failed, she shifted tactics, threatening to fight for half of everything, including my business that I had built from nothing. Her threats lost potency when Mark presented the complete evidence file documenting her affair and abandonment. The divorce laws in our state took infidelity seriously, and Melissa's position weakened considerably once she consulted her own lawyer. Still, the process was emotionally exhausting. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Kaplan, who helped me recognize patterns of emotional manipulation that had characterized much of our relationship. Melissa had subtly trained me to prioritize her needs above my own, to measure my worth through her approval, to accept blame for her dissatisfaction. Breaking these patterns was difficult but essential work. You stayed in a one-sided relationship because you believed love meant putting someone else's happiness before your own, Dr. Kaplan observed during one session. But real love is reciprocal. It cannot flourish when one person consistently sacrifices while the other primarily takes. My support system expanded in unexpected ways. Friends I had neglected during my marriage reached out with genuine concern. My brother flew in from Seattle to spend a weekend helping me sort through the house, removing painful reminders of Melissa. Even my employees showed their support through small gestures like bringing coffee or offering to handle client meetings when I had court appointments. I threw myself into work, finding healing in creating and building. My contracting business took on challenging new projects that required my full attention and creativity. I expanded into green building techniques, attracting environmentally conscious clients willing to pay premium rates for sustainable construction. 2 months after filing for divorce, I watched Melissa move the last of her things out of our house. She had lost significant weight, and dark circles underlined her eyes. For a moment, seeing her struggle with a heavy box, I almost offered to help. Then I remembered her note, her betrayal, her manipulation, and I remained on the porch, simply observing the end of a chapter. I never meant to hurt you, she said before getting into her car one final time. I know, I replied. You just never made staying an option that would not hurt me. The house felt different after she left completely. Too big, too full of memories. After careful consideration, I decided to sell it and downsize to a modern condominium downtown, closer to many of my work projects. The sale brought unexpected financial benefits, as the housing market had risen significantly since our purchase. 6 months after finding Melissa's note, the divorce was finalized. The terms were largely favorable to me, with Melissa receiving less than half of our marital assets due to her documented infidelity and the abandonment that had initiated our separation. My business remained solely under my control, though I agreed to a reasonable cash settlement to avoid prolonged litigation. The first anniversary of Melissa's departure found me in a completely different life. My new condominium suited me perfectly, with an open floor plan and a dedicated workshop space where I could pursue woodworking projects in my free time. I had reconnected with old hobbies, playing guitar, mountain biking, volunteering with a local home building charity, Through a commercial renovation project for an architectural firm, I met Rachel. Unlike Melissa's flashy confidence, Rachel possessed a quiet, grounded strength. She was passionate about sustainable design and brutally honest about everything from her opinions on building materials to her recent divorce from a husband who had never supported her career goals. We started with strictly professional interactions, collaborating on the renovation of a historic building being converted into eco-friendly office spaces. Gradually, our conversations extended beyond work. I found myself looking forward to our meetings, appreciating her intelligence, creativity, and authentic approach to life. 6 weeks into the project, Rachel suggested getting dinner to discuss a challenging aspect of the building's HVAC system. Our professional discussion eventually gave way to personal stories, shared experiences of failed marriages, and surprising discoveries of common interests. I spent too many years trying to be what someone else wanted, Rachel told me over dessert. Never again. These days I would rather be single than inauthentic. I understand that completely, I replied. And I truly did. Unlike my whirlwind romance with Melissa, Rachel and I moved forward with deliberate care. We enjoyed each other's company without rushing toward labels or commitments. We shared experiences rather than possessions, built trust through consistent honesty, and respected each other's independence while choosing to spend time together. Looking back now, I can say with genuine gratitude that Melissa's note was the most painful gift I ever received. It forced me to confront the imbalance that had characterized our relationship from the beginning. It pushed me to rediscover my own worth, beyond what I could provide to someone else. It freed me to build a life that reflected my authentic values rather than someone else's expectations. The pain of betrayal never completely disappears, but it evolves into something useful, a protective wisdom that helps you recognize genuine connection when it appears. I no longer view relationships as achievements or possessions, but as ongoing choices made by two people who genuinely want to be together, not because of obligation or dependency, but because of mutual respect and joy. Have you ever had to choose yourself over someone who did not truly value you? Share your experience in the comments below. If my story resonated with you in any way, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to hear more journeys of personal growth through difficult times. Do not forget to share this video with someone who might need to hear that sometimes the freedom someone else seeks ends up being exactly what you needed too. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to choose yourself when necessary, because that choice often leads to the most authentic happiness life has to offer.